Welcome. We are in the fourth part of the treatises, the last section of the book of the treatises. What a wonderful book this has been. And as we've moved away from part 3 of the treatises, which we got really personal with some really direct advice on how to work with this material on an intimate level, now in part 4, we're kind of zooming back out to get the bigger perspective. So that's where we're starting with the idea that all are chosen. He tells us ahead of time. In the 4th treatise, we continue the view from the embrace, which is inclusive of all. And the goal of this treatise, meaning this 4th one, is to reach a certainty from which you can live. So we have already been given the goals in book 1 of remembering who we are. And then the goal of the next goal we were given is to be living as the Christ. So now we're being given the goal of this last treatise is to bring us to a place of certainty that can help us live as the Christ. So we're going to start with this broad perspective. Verse 5 says, "A question has been asked, and a response is awaited. Are you willing to be the chosen of God?" I mean, really, that's what it's down to. All are asked, what is your answer? Now, when it says the chosen of God, he's not kidding. He's not kidding. Once you say, yes, I'm in, this is the only thing that's important to me any longer, things start to fall in place for you. The answers start coming up. You don't have to effort any longer. Things get brought in front of your awareness that are blockages, resentments, whatever needs to be released and let go of, it gets brought to your attention. And as long as you stay willing, it will be brought to resolution, and all of those fences you've built will come crumbling down. It might be hard to believe in your own worthiness to be chosen. You might wonder why those in the past weren't chosen, or why others might not be chosen now. In verse 8, he tells us a choice is always made. A choice to accept or reject, say yes or no, to learn this or that, to learn now or later. We have always had the choice. And I've watched people make the choice. They get to the edge of this and go, okay, am I really ready to do this? Am I really ready to give that world up? Some of them choose no, and that's okay. Those who choose yes, life gets really fun. Others may choose to learn through other means, but the same content will be learned, and they will eventually be led to the truth of who they are. You don't have to study a course of love to get to the same place. There are other teachings that'll take you to the same place. There are teachers, other philosophies, other religions. If you follow them, the purity of it, you'll get to the same place. You can even get there without a teaching or a religion. You can get there through experience. Everybody's going to end up in the same place eventually. So it's not our business to say, this is the only way, follow me. So knowing that they can take many lifetimes, they can do what they want, verse 11 tells us, at the same time, it must be seen that your choice matters in time, even if all will make the same choice eventually. So now we're told it really does matter if you choose now. It does matter. And we're going to be told a little bit more about why. The question has to arise, if an end to suffering and fear has been possible and is possible, why has it not come to be? In other words, why did we have to go through all the famine and the rape and the abuse and the hard times that humanity has gone through? So much suffering. If there is a God that could have brought an end to this, why hasn't it happened before? What kind of a unfeeling God is that? And you might feel that something is different now, because it is. And you might think, well, is it evolution? Is that why? As we evolve to the point and we're going to continue to evolve, and so we're just getting better, that's how come? Or you might ask, was this some kind of a preordained chosen time that, was written into the program when it first started it? But he tells us not to mess with that. Don't worry about that. In fact, he says, don't look back and let the issue of time confuse you. Truth exists only in the present. So we don't know how it all works, and we won't know while we're here, while we're in the game. We won't know if all of these lives are happening simultaneously, if it's just part of the story we concocted as a backdrop. We don't know. And the truth is, we don't need to know. All we need to know is that we're present and receive the glory of the moment. Allow it to be. Don't resist what's happening right now. Verse 16 tells us, it is in this way that time is not real and will no longer be real to you as you come to live by the truth. So Course in Miracles students will remember talking about miracles transcending time. This is the same phenomenon. When you're in that space where that one thing is happening and you're part of that one thing, then time is kind of beside the point. So he tells us, you have completed God's act of choosing you by choosing God. That you have chosen God and chosen a new means of coming to know the truth, the means of Christ consciousness, is what has ushered in a new time. So this is interesting. So God's always chosen us. We've never been out of God's embrace. But we've turned and chosen God. God, of course, not being a man in the sky with a beard. God being the energy of creation, of love, the one thing, the stuff of which everything is made, the stuff of which nothing is apart from. We, in our separated selves, have chosen God, and we've chosen a new means of coming to the truth, which is the means of Christ consciousness, which, if you'll remember, is the means of being in the game still while remembering who we are. This is a whole new level of playing the game of separation. And because we've made that choice, we have ushered in the new time. So just to get clear of the old way and the new way, and this might be challenging for some people, but just stay open. The old way was the time of the Holy Spirit, the time when here I am in the game, but still some communication can get through. I can still resonate to things. I can still get messages. There's still a connection to that one thing. It was a time of learning by contrast. Well, when I do this, this happens. When I do that, that happens. I notice this one is this way, that one is that way. We have to compare and contrast in order to learn. That's the old way. And it was a time of learning through indirect communication, so that a teacher who had achieved some enlightenment can tell other people. In fact, for centuries, forever, in order to awaken, it was considered you had to go study with a teacher who was awake. You got the transmission of their energy, and they would give you teachings. I mean, there are monks who study their whole lives to get this. This was the old way. It was a lot of work. It was possible to awaken within the old way, but it took a really long time. And it was rare. Now, in the new way, we're in the time of Christ, which the Christ energy is that energy which is able to be both human and divine at the same time and be aware of it. We've always been both human and divine because we can never not be divine. But to live consciously within that awareness, that's the time of Christ. And now this is the time of learning by observation. Instead of learning from books and comparing, we're learning by watching what happens within our own selves. Watching what's actually true for me. Watching the energy that I have with that person or with that flower or with that tree. So we learn by watching what's true in our experience, by becoming really intimate with our own field of awareness. And it's also the time of learning through direct experience. It's not good enough anymore for you to tell me what's true. I need to experience what's true. I need to have my own direct experience of the divine. I need to not just have something I believe. I need to have something I know because I've had first-hand experience of it. It's a whole new level, and it can happen really quickly, and it can happen to anyone. The old way, the time of the Holy Spirit, has led to our advances in technology, science, the refinement of our hearts and minds. It's not the other way around. It's not that technology and science led to our being ready for this. No. It was the old way and all that it brought us that brought us here. Even the churches have served this purpose. And our ancestors have done us a great service by really being willing to learn in the old way, which was all that was available at that time. Indirect learning, however, left much room for interpretation. You have to admit that, which is why there are so many churches and so many philosophies and points of view and teachers and leaders and political parties and just so many discussions of the right way to do things, because there's so much room for interpretation and individual assessment of the theories. In verse 21, the new way is here. If you are now to learn directly, you are also now to share directly. And that's the cool part, because people start observing you being authentic, you telling the truth, you living by the truth, and the freedom that you experience because of that. It's not what you say, it's who you are that they respond to. You have felt this shift coming, and so has the world. And that's the truth. I mean, teachers say it from near to far. Something's going on here. There's a shift happening here. Energy's moving. While the world may not seem to have changed much outwardly, it is a different world. You don't know that the secret yearnings of others have matched your own. What he's telling us here is that longing that you have had to be done, to get it, to actually see what's true, is the same yearning that other people are having. Because there is only one, and so everybody's got that same energy coming up inside of them. Verse 24, all across the world, people of the world have been demanding to learn directly through experience and saying no more to the lessons of intermediaries. This phenomenon has really changed the roles of ministers in the church. I mean, even the Pope's role has changed. The roles of our government leaders have changed. People are just saying, yeah, I'm just not taking your word for it anymore. I want to have my own experience, my own knowledge, my direct experience. So that's a wonderful thing, because we can We can learn so much faster now that the new way has come to be. It's, we just, leaps and bounds can happen in what used to take centuries, at least decades. Now, for a short period of time, there is an overlap where some resist the new consciousness. And this is certainly true. I've seen this true. Not everybody's just jumping in head first with this new way. It's challenging. It's what it challenges is the illusion, and that's scary to people. Now, what he tells us here is kind of cool. Verse 26, those born into the time of Christ will settle for nothing less than the truth and will soon begin looking earnestly for it. These are the children. Even the ego self will be perceived clearly by these, and they will want it for their identity, but only will accept it until another identity is offered. You can just look and see how quickly the kids that are being born are ready to shift over. They'll go ahead and play the game the way it's set up, but they're like looking for what's real here. What's actually going on here? What's true? Let's get down to the truth of it. I want to get to the core of this matter. They are ready to go. I don't know this, but the thought did occur to me that in 1987, when there was the harmonic convergence, there was reported to have been a huge shift in energy on the planet. Maybe everybody born after that moment was born into the time of Christ. I don't know. That's my own conjecture. During this time now, it is still possible to teach and learn indirectly. The old way isn't completely gone, and it isn't completely useless. But most will learn through observance and experience. So if people still want to take it the slow way, take it the old way, keep the house of illusion intact, they can do that. There is still learning to be done there. But most people are going to switch over to direct experience and are doing so now. Verse 27 really lays it on the line. It means that the last generation born into the time of the Holy Spirit will live out their lives, and that soon all who remain on earth will be those born into the time of Christ. So I don't know what this means as far as dates go. And I'm not sure that we have to. But this is what he says is going to happen. You can still learn the old way if you're attached to it for a period of time. But when those people who insist on learning the old way and aren't willing to learn the new way die, then that's it. That's the last generation of the old way. And the shift then will occur on a massive scale. The one will actually transition into the new, into the Christ, which is pretty exciting that we're here to experience this however we experience it. Whatever our role is absolutely perfect. And it does nobody any good to think I'm special. I came here to make this happen. I mean, we just get back into the specialness roles. But the new is available now. It doesn't matter when you were born. It doesn't matter at all. The new, the direct experience, the fast route is available now. So, if that's what you're interested in, then all you have to do to have that is be open to your own direct experience and stop hiding from the truth of yourself. Stop running from the truth. Bring stillness and presence to each moment and embrace the gift of life as it is given to you moment by moment. It's a wonderful thing. Thank you for joining me for this chapter. I look forward to talking with you again for Chapter 2.